Olá, atletas e fãs do fisiculturismo brasileiro. Meu nome é Terek Elguindi com a Musclecontest International, a maior promotora de eventos de fisiculturismo do mundo. Eventos no Brasil, Estados Unidos, Áustria, Irlanda, Japão, Vietnã e Filipinas. Eventos como Expo Super Show Muscle Contest Brasil, Arnold Classic South America, Mr. Olympia e NPC. Hoje temos convidados ilustres. Vou começar aqui com o maior treinador da história do fisiculturismo. Ele tem mais de 20 títulos no Mr. Olympia, treinou Jay Cutler, Nicole Wilkins, Derek Lunsford and Phil Heath. He's the winningest coach in bodybuilding. His name is Hani Rambod. Hani, good evening.
How you doing? How are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Also, to my immediate left or right, ele é o Mr. USA's, ele é o 212 Mr. Olympia, ele conseguiu ganhar o Tampa Pro, um dos atletas com maior potencial no atual fisiculturismo. Mr. USA 212, Mr. Olympia, Derek Lunsford. How are you, Derek?
I'm great. Thank you guys for having us.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Derek. Also with us, he is a Mr. USA's light heavy. He's the CEO and president of Musclecontest International, also the producer of the Mr. Olympia, Tamer Elguindi.
Obrigado, Tarek. Thank you, Tarek. I'm extremely happy to be here with you guys. As you can see, I'm running around from one airport to another airport. It's kind of interesting life because we have the greatest coach that have ever lived, in my opinion, the great Hani Rambod. We have the 212 Mr. Olympia that I believe here, and we have the
Tamer, it looks like your audio is not working very well. Parece que o áudio do Tamer não está muito bem, então eu vou direto aqui para o fenômeno russo. O nome dele é Vitaliy, mas muitas pessoas chamam ele de Gutevito. Ele é monstruoso e ele está nos juntando hoje aqui na live da Musclecontest. How are you, Gutevito?
Hello. I'm fine. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much. I'm going to start with Hani Rambod. Eu vou começar com o Hani Rambod, um dos melhores técnicos do mundo. Hani, you've won the Mr. Olympia multiple times with Phil Heath, Jay Cutler, Nicole Wilkins. Just the past year, you've won the 212 with Derek Lunsford. Tell me a little bit about Derek Lunsford, because I'm going to make a very bold statement. I believe he's the only man in current bodybuilding that can win the 212 and eventually win the Mr. Olympia in the open division.
Well, I think that, Derek obviously is a very, very gifted athlete. He works very, very hard. He's been able to really focus on making sure that he is able to take his physique to a whole different level. And I think that right now, the biggest thing is that, he was able to get to the point. I think that was Tamer's is in the airport, but I think that he's been able to really show everyone kind of where his true potential is in this last year. So I'm very proud of him. I think he's grown on the stage as well as off the stage, and I feel that he's just getting started. And and it's one of those things that he's progressing at a very nice level without taxing his body. And I feel that it's just really just starting to grow and really maintain a three-dimensional look. So again, I'm just excited to see him and his journey.
Do you agree with my bold statement?
I do think that he has the potential to be a Mr. Olympia in both divisions. Obviously, one of them, one prophecy has been has been filled. The next one is yet to come. I think that it's just a matter of time. And one of the things that I really pride myself on, as your brother Tamer would know, is also making sure to maintain the athlete's health as he continues to grow and he continues to improve. So I think that there is definitely an argument for him to win the Open at some point, but it's one of those things where doing it in the right way is just as important as doing it for me.
Okay, let me translate that. Eu perguntei para o Ronnie Rambod, primeiramente, ele é o técnico que mais ganhou o Mr. Olympias, ele treinou Jay Cutler, Phil Heath, Nicole Wilkins, ele é o coach mais reconhecido no mundo inteiro, winningest coach of all times. E eu perguntei para ele se o Derek Lunsford, na minha opinião, ele tem a possibilidade de ganhar o Mr. Olympia não só na 212, o que ele já conquistou, que ele também pode ganhar o Mr. Olympia na categoria Open. E Ronnie Rambod falou que ele acredita que o Derek Lunsford está somente começando e que o potencial dele é de possivelmente ganhar na categoria Open. Ele também falou muito da determinação dele, do fator do trabalho ético dele. Ele é um dos caras muito determinados. Ronnie, I have another question for you. I've been able to follow your career, and you've been able to bring some of the most conditioned athletes on stage. Derek is one of the examples. When he came on stage this past Mr. Olympia, we could tell it was a different conditioning. Phil Heath, Tamer, Steve Kuklo, Jay Cutler, conquering his title. But one of the things that we know about Ronnie Rambod is that he never had any athlete struggle. I mean, they were tired. They were a little exhausted because of the diet. But I saw it with my own eyes with Jay Cutler, with Tamer and Phil Heath. Nobody was struggling one day before the competition. I can't remember anybody taking a diuretic because Ronnie Rambod always said what holds water is fat. And if you diet properly and you do your cardiovascular, you don't need to play this chemical game. What do you attribute your mentality, your winning mentality of not only winning, but making sure every athlete that wins in a very healthy manner?
Well, I think that you minimize the likelihood of using diuretics if you're in shape. If you're in shape, you really minimize that, and it creates a much better safety barrier to what you're trying to accomplish, which is a healthy, full muscle belly and 3D look. If you're sitting there hammering diuretics to make up for the lack of conditioning, number one, you're playing with your health to the point where you could die, but you're also trying to make sure that you maintain muscle fullness, and muscle fullness is 75% water, 72% water. So you have to try to balance those things out. Not to say that you're not going to be using water pillows from time to time, but you try to minimize it as much as possible by keeping your body fat very low so that you're likely to hold less water. The other thing is not playing the chemical game. The chemical game equals more water retention. The more chemicals you take, the more likely you are going to hold water. So therefore, then you end up having more problems at the end trying to hit a moving target instead of just getting in shape and doing minimal at the very end. So because you're already there, you don't have to do any tricks at the very end that could cost you your health and also end up making you 20% better, 20% worse at the very end, or 2% better. That game has been played for many, many years, and it's not a winning game.
Yeah, I mean, very well said. I'm going to translate that. Eu perguntei para o Ronnie Rambod, ele tem treinado Phil Heath, ele tem treinado Jay Cutler, ele tem treinado Derek Lunsford, Tamer Elgindi, um dos maiores atletas que conquistaram um condicionamento muito bom. Mas ele nunca precisou de diuréticos ou ele fez um jogo químico no final. Ele acredita que através da dieta e do cardiovascular, uma vez você retira toda a gordura através desses dois processos, você não precisa ter o uso de diurético e você não precisa adicionar nenhum químico. E ele falou que o uso excessivo de químicos na sua preparação, O uso excessivo de químicos na sua finalização causa uma retenção de água, entendeu? Então, ele também enfatizou o fato de ser muito importante com relação à saúde do atleta. Eu achei isso bem legal. Thank you, Hani. As always, you have tremendous scientific input for us. I'm going to talk to you, Derek. You won the Mr. USA's in a dominant fashion. You went to Tampa Pro and you won the show. And the expectation was that you would be quickly the 212 Mr. Olympia. But that did not happen. Tell me a little bit about what happened.
Yeah, so a fast rise in 2017, like you said, with the Mr. USA, the Tampa Pro, and then a top 5 finish at the Olympia, all within about less than 2 months. So that was a whirlwind of events that transpired into a dream come true, as for most people watching, I'm sure. And, you know, coming back in 2018, you know, I was going up against, you know, the most winningest 212 Olympia of all time, Flex Lewis, and who was an idol and a motivation for me, you know, coming into this sport. So, you know, I was working to rival the Mr. Flex Lewis, and, you know, he walked away with the title where I placed second. And then the following year, same thing happened. I came up shy at second place, and then I had a little bit of a setback 2020 where I ended up placing fourth. So by 2020, I realized, okay, I needed to make a change. And I had always admired Hani as a coach and as a person. I even remember the first time I ever met Hani was at an Evogen booth at the Arnold Classic. That was back in 2016, where we joked and I said, can you make me the next Mr. Olympia? And, you know, at the time I was far away from that. But in my mind and in my heart, you know, there in the future, there would be a time where he and I would have maybe more of a serious conversation about, you know, helping me win the Mr. Olympia, which had happened, you know, fast forward back to 2020, and we're backstage at the Olympia, and we, you know, started talking about working together for the next year. So, you know, another dream come true, working with, like you said, the greatest, you know, coach of all time, 20-time Mr. Olympia coach, Hani Rambod. So that was another thing that I'd always wanted, you know, to do, was learn from him. And, you know, obviously last year it worked out. I mean, he knows what he's doing. He's, you know, got the experience, the knowledge, and mainly the attention to detail. Like he really, really cares about each of his athletes, me and all of the others. So, you know, when I saw that, I knew, like what he said, this last year was just the beginning. So I'm happy and thankful to be working with Hani.
Derek falou que ele, quando ele se tornou profissional, ele já ganhou o Tampa Pro, ele já foi um dos favoritos para o Mr. Olympia. Não foi uma decepção total pegar segundo lugar para o Flex Lewis, que era um dos ídolos dele. E aí ele teve um ano que foi decepcionante, e ele pegou quarto lugar. O Hani Rambod sempre foi um ídolo dele. Ele encontrou ele na stand da Evogen e ele brincou com o Hani Rambod e falou, olha, tem jeito de você me tornar o Mr. Olympia? E eventualmente eles se encontraram no backstage do Mr. Olympia e começaram um relacionamento, e ele tem sido muito satisfeito com o resultado. Ele realmente acha que o Hani é um cara muito detalhe, né? Ele presta muita atenção ao detalhe e ele está muito feliz com esse relacionamento. Tamer, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear. Can you hear me a little bit better? I went back to the car so I could get a little bit better, kind of like silence. Is the microphone a little bit better?
Yeah, we can hear you now better.
That's good. Yeah, you know, if I just want to add something, you know, I think that's very often on our industry that we compliment other people. But, you know, Hani is truly the greatest coach that we ever had. He has won, you know, Olympias in different divisions, what proves like his, you know, ability to work with different bodies, female and male. But I think really what's the biggest strength of Hani is not his understanding of biochemistry or biomechanics, but it's his understanding of the psychology of the athlete. and that's an aspect of training that's often misunderstood by people. And working with guys like Phil Heath, Derek, or myself is no easy task. We can be divas sometimes. We can be difficult. We're dealing with so many different issues, and Honey and I have like stories that people would laugh for hours. Derek, you probably know better than anybody else. But like I see, I see a lot of potential here in Derek, and I see this new Russian guy that's coming to the scene right now. He has a lot of potential too.
Tamer, I want you to do the first question. Vito, we're waiting for his translator here, but Guto Vito speaks good English, and I want you to have the first question for him real slow so we can help him.
Sure. So first, like, thank you so much for joining, our live and muscle contest. We're proud to be, the strongest arm of the NPC IFBB worldwide. So go to Vito. I don't want to ask you a question. I want to challenge you with something here. Here you have the Mr. Olympia 212 on this live. You have the greatest coach that we have on the IFBB Pro League and the Olympia. And I think you have a phenomenal body. But, it's time for you to join the best in the world. I want to invite you to be part of the NPC worldwide and the IFBB Pro League.
Меня. Представься, пожалуйста, Надюша, от меня. Представься.
Hello, my name is Nadezhda.
My girlfriend.
It's my girlfriend, Vito. Can you repeat the question, please?
So, Ubrinov, can you hear us?
Yes. I'm trying my best. I'm sorry. I'm in the car going to the other place because there was a light went off on Tijuca, and I had to.
Pergunta pro Guto Vito. O Tamer acabou de fazer desafio para ele. Ele falou: olha, você tem um dos melhores físicos do mundo. Você tem um dos melhores físicos do mundo. E o Tamer acabou de perguntar para ele se ele está pronto para entrar na NPC e na IFBB Pro League.
Виталий, они говорят...
Go ahead.
Виталик, они говорят, что у тебя один из лучших потенциалов в бодибилдинге, и как ты считаешь, ты готов войти в НПЦ и в Про-лигу ИББ?
Скажи, что осенью мы сделаем крутую форму, e вы сами все увидите.
Ele fala que ele está pronto, ele quer fazer uma shape muito bacana e para mostrar para todo mundo que ele já está pronto.
E qual seria, Tamer? Você gostaria de convidar ele para um campeonato específico no Brasil? Qual seria esse campeonato?
Eu gostaria de convidar o Godovito para o primeiro show dele, ser a Musclecontest Brasil Expo Super Show, para ele tentar o cartão profissional dele e tentar competir com os profissionais no mesmo dia.
Pode traduzir isso?
Sim, posso perguntar quanto será esse Musclecontest? Qual mês?
Dia 25 de junho.
Dia 25 de junho? Виталий, они приглашают тебя участвовать в Musclecontest, который будет 25 июня в Бразилии.
Во-первых, Вячеслав, чуть подальше микрофон немножко, слишком сильно прям шумит он у всех. Да, чуть-чуть подальше от рта. Скажи, что я буду набирать вес вплоть до конца августа. Мне нужно набрать вес до 130 килограмм. И для того, чтобы показать прогресс на сцене за год. Я не могу быть в той же самой форме, которая была в том году.
Então, ele falou que talvez está agora na fase de ganhar peso, ganhar massa muscular, e talvez no junho ele está duvidando que ele estaria pronto para mostrar o shape, o melhor de condição dele, porque o junho já é bem perto, mas isso dá para falar, dá para combinar, claro.
So, Tech, I have another question too. So, like, you know, Hani, like you have been to Brazil, I think, like sometimes. I know, Derek, I don't think you have been to Brazil, correct?
I have not, but I'd love to go for sure.
Yeah, well, so I want to make the same challenge for both of you guys. I think every Brazilian fan that's watching this would like to see the greatest trainer in the world here in Brazil. You know, the Expo, so we have two events here that I'm going to invite you. The Expo Super Show that's going to happen on the last weekend of June. You know, and let's talk about that, bringing you and Derek to that show. And we also have in the end of the year, towards the end of the year in September, the Olympia Brazil. That's also a huge expo. I think it's 13th of September to 15th of September. Can we get you or Derek to be here? And can maybe we get one? I don't know if you're gonna have the Mr. Olympia competing on that show, but can Hadi or one of these guys do a guest posing for us here on that show?
I honestly think that we have to just look at the schedule. I mean, I appreciate the offer because I'd love to come back to Brazil. I think the Brazilian fans are some of the most passionate fans in the world. And every time I've been to Sao Paulo, I've been to Rio, it's been absolutely a great time because the fans are so passionate. So I would love to get back. We just have to get together and look at the schedule and try to make it out there. I'd love to come back to Brazil.
Let me translate.
That's kind of political answer.
Let me translate this to the Brazilian public. O Tamer está convidando o Rony, Derek Lunsford para ir para o Brasil, Derek fazer um guest posing, Rony fazer uma palestra. Ele acabou de convidar o Guto Vito para vir competir no Expo Super Show, mas ele falou que o Guto Vito ainda está fazendo uma preparação de ganhar músculo. Então, talvez mais tarde, o Guto Vito, talvez no Olímpia, em setembro, no Brasil, talvez tenha a possibilidade dele competir. A minha pergunta para o Rony Rambod. Rony, here's Hadi and here's Guto Vito. Rony, give me an analysis of Guto Vito. What do you think of this guy? Would you like to work with this guy? I know you're extremely busy. But is this a great physique, a good physique, so physique? What do you think of this physique?
I mean, he's no tamer, but he's definitely got really good genetics. I think that obviously he's very young. I think he's got great structure. He's got a fantastic future ahead of him. I'm very excited to see him competing, especially deciding to come into the NPC worldwide and come into the NPC organization for the road to the Olympia. The only way to get to the Olympia stage is through the NPC worldwide. And I think that him making that choice is going to be one of the most fundamental decisions he's ever made in his entire career, because it really increases the limit of where he can go. So I'm looking forward to it. I think he's got a great future ahead of him.
Now, Hani, I want to make this a little awkward. I know you're the king of recruiting. You know, you're actually one of the greatest recruiters in the Silicon Valley.
Actually, I'm gonna freeze there. That's a misnomer. You can ask Tamer. I don't actually recruit, Tarek. Actually, it's usually the other way around, because I learned that the reason why it's so important is that when you have the athlete come with a coach, you know they're more likely to listen to you.
I'm recruiting him to work with you. That's what I'm doing. Ugrinov, ask Guto Vito, when does he think is his first show? Is he going to be ready to compete?
Ele já falou antes que ele queria competir em outono. Então, eu acho que no setembro dá para competir para ele.
Então, setembro, Gutovito talvez. E ele vai competir no Brasil?
Vitaliy. Хотел бы соревноваться в Бразилии.
Еще момент. Нужно
Виталий,
будет микрофон убрать. Да, я слышу. Микрофон убрать нужно будет от рта и выключать его, когда вы не говорите. Слишком разнится. Меня слышно, Вячеслав?
Tá me ouvindo?
Давай ты сообщишь, Надюш, скажи то, что первые подписчики мои были из Бразилии. Скажи.
Todo mundo está me ouvindo?
Sim. Qual que é a possibilidade dele competir no Brasil?
Claro que ele queria competir. Ele falou que ele queria.
Perfeito. Existe alguma empresa que está ajudando ele no Brasil?
Não.
Perfeito. Tamer, você quer continuar aí com uma pergunta para o Derek, Gutovito ou Rony?
Sim, eu quero falar com o Derek. Derek, so I was talking about like Hani used to train me. You know, I mean, obviously he's a phenomenal trainer, but he was a complete asshole with me all the time. You know, like is he as much as an asshole to you as he was to me? Because this is the kind of shit that he used to tell me. Tamer, you have arms like figure girls. Your back is disgusting. I'm like on the middle of the. I'm in the middle of the comparisons. In the middle, and he's like, I said, honey, how do you think you did? You're probably in the top 5. I'm like, motherfucker, I'm in the middle. I'm in the top 5. I mean, what is he like that with you too, or he just used to torture me? Derek, translate that.
Tamer, listen, he's still my coach. I can't be answering that question. What are you talking about?
I'll answer that question. Tarek, first of all, translate so that all the Brazilians will know exactly in the Portuguese.
O Tamer falou que quando ele treinava com o Ronnie Rambod, que o Ronnie falava que ele tinha braços de competidor de figure, que as costas dele pareciam as costas de uma competidora de biquíni. E aí o Tamer perguntou para o Derek Lunsford, ele fala essas coisas para você, Derek? E o Derek falou, olha, eu não posso falar nada porque ele ainda é meu coach.
And Tamer, don't forget, Tamer, the bunda was like wellness. Your bunda was like wellness.
Oh, yeah.
E ele falou que a bunda do Tamer parecia uma bunda de wellness.
That's right. Because his glutes were always the last to come in.
Os glúteos dele eram os últimos a se tornarem definidos, então o glúteo dele é que nem uma glúteo de wellness.
So I'm going to answer the question, Tarek, because I don't, the thing is, I did torture your brother much, much more than Derek, because you have to remember that I had to really, really ride Tamer, because sometimes, he would send me photos and I would think that he retired. I said, okay, I thought this was an announcement. You know how somebody gets a wedding announcement in the mail, Tamer? And you would say, I thought it was I thought it was a retirement announcement, because the pictures, I thought it was going to tell me that he was going to retire.
O Ronnie Rambod said que o Ronnie falou que às vezes o Tamer mandava fotos de progresso e as fotos eram tão ruins que ele pensava que ele tinha aposentado, entendeu? Então ele tinha que ser muito mais duro com o Tamer do que com o Derek Lunsford.
Derek, I have another question that combines with that. So, pro treinador do Gutovito, o Rony tem um estilo de treino que é o FST7, que realmente é focalizado no volume celular, e ele era um treinador que realmente puxava muito os competidores, até de uma forma, eu não falo isso mal, de uma forma negativa, mas puxando você. Como que é o estilo de treino russo? Como que você treina o Gutovito e você usa o FST7 o high intensity, qual que é o seu estilo de treino comparado ao americano com os russos?
Nós treinamos com carga alta. Isso é sempre também nosso jeito de treinar é jeito puxado. Nós estamos puxando. Nós sabemos que para ser grande você precisa de ser forte. Claro que em qualquer período de preparação nós vamos usar FST7 e os outros sistemas, mas na maioria dos casos, especialmente agora, em off-season, nós trabalhamos com muita carga alta para ganhar massa muscular. E também estamos puxando, claro, sem puxar nem vai ter resultado.
Você já ouviu falar do estilo que o Ronnie desenvolveu, que foi o estilo que o Phil Heath usou, o Jay Cutler, chamado FST7?
Claro, eu conheço esse sistema.
E você, qual que é a sua opinião, pessoal, como um treinador, lógico, você acha que isso tem algumas validades positivas, negativas?
Eu acho que tudo tem tempo. Esse sistema funciona muito bem com caras que já têm base com carga alta, que já agachou, que já fez terra, que já construiu base muscular. Então, o FST7 ajuda muito para aumentar o nível ainda mais. Esse serve já para atletas de qualquer nível, para chegar ao nível mais alto ainda. Mas talvez para juniores, talvez para caras novas que ainda não têm base, esse sistema ainda, como melhor um pouco adiar, trabalhar mais com as coisas básicas.
Entendi. Hey, honey, just so you know, so I was asking him the different styles of training, of course, between, with Derek, with Phil Heath, with me, with Jay. Obviously, your, primary training method was the method you developed, FST7. And if the Russians are familiar with that, and if they use that. So he said, oh, absolutely, we're very familiar. We use that method of training. But to be very honest, I believe it's a method that's more well-rounded for an experienced bodybuilder that already has a base that's made for them. I think that you can see more results of the FT7 through athletes that already have supported base to start it right away. So I'm just kind of translating what he said. Do you have any comments for that?
No, I think that it's definitely beneficial for somebody who already has size. So I agree, but I think that beginners can use it too. But you got to also train heavy and get your base movements to be able to get to the point where you can use heavier weight.
Jack, you want to translate that?
O Rony fala que ele acredita que o FST7 é muito efetivo, não só para os iniciantes, mas também para os atletas experientes que já têm uma quantidade de músculo. Então ele acha que funciona nos dois, mas ele pode ver como às vezes um atleta com mais experiência pode se beneficiar do programa um pouquinho mais.
Tá, você quer perguntar uma coisa?
Sim, o Grinov, o Gutovito tem umas pernas fenomenais. As pernas dele pertencem ao Mr. Olímpia. Tem atletas no Mr. Olímpia que não têm essas pernas. As pernas dele são fenomenais. Existe alguma parte do corpo dele que ele acha que ele precisa melhorar?
Виталь, тебе вопрос. Говорит, что у тебя феноменальные ноги участника Мистер Олимпии. А что ты считаешь, тебе нужно сейчас развивать в большей степени дальше?
Имеется в виду какая группа мышц?
Да.
Я считаю, что нужно сделать плечи и икроножные мышцы. Тогда будет картинка красивая.
Ele acha que agora a coisa principal para desenvolver para ele seria ombros e panturrilhas. Essas são as partes que precisa melhorar mais nesse momento.
Ombros e panturrilhas.
Sim, ele não está feliz com ombros em panturrilhas no momento. Mas.
Derek, my question to you is this: the same feeling that a lot of people are getting about Guto Vitor, this phenom that's coming to the NPC worldwide, trying to earn his pro card, that same feeling you experienced. You know, these pictures were going on social media and people were talking about you winning the 212, then winning the Mr. Olympia. The expectations were high. The pressure was huge. You couldn't disappoint. You had to win every show you entered. What do you think about this young guy? What do you think about his physique? And what do you think he's going through right now? Because the pressure that he's about to go through is something that you experienced.
Yeah, well, just sorry, before you answer that, I think that's kind of like really similar because, you know, Guto Vitor is right now on a point that Derek was maybe 5 years ago. Would you say, honey? Maybe 5, you know, I mean, how many years are you a pro now? How many years were you a pro now, Derek?
I turned pro in 2017 at the USA's.
Yeah, so
17, 5 years ago. 5 years ago.
Yeah, about 5 years.
5 years ago,
yeah,
July.
5 years. Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead, Derek. Go ahead, and Derek could translate after.
Yeah, so I think the pressure is different for everyone, right? Everybody handles the pressure a little bit different. Now, you know, what Hani said earlier, the only way to get to the Mr. Olympia is through the NPC, through the IFBB Pro League, and then on to the Mr. Olympia. That's the only way. That's the Super Bowl of bodybuilding, and that is the #1 most prestigious title in the world. There's no question, no debate about it. So for me, I went right into the NPC, IFBB Pro League, and then onto the Olympia. As far as his physique, I mean, it speaks for itself. He's an amazing bodybuilder. He's got amazing genetics. He obviously works incredibly hard, and I think it should be a no-brainer that he makes that switch. And you know, he just keeps doing what he's doing, right? And I would say, just like for myself, learning from the best in the world, that's the most important. There's levels to this, and you know, whoever he's with, he's doing very well now. But you know, you want to learn from the best. You want to take your physique, your career to the next level, and the only way to do that is the way I just, you know, spilled it out for you.
Derek Lunsford, a gente perguntou sobre o Guto Vitor, que a pressão, todo mundo está falando do Guto Vitor, agora ele está determinado a vir para a NPC, para a IFBB Pro League. E anos atrás, quando o Derek se tornou profissional e estava fazendo a estreia dele, existia a mesma pressão no Derek, né? O Derek estava com essas fotos na internet, todo mundo no Brasil, nos Estados Unidos, na Europa, Ásia, ficou enlouquecido com essas fotos do Derek. E a gente perguntou se a pressão que ele está passando é similar com a pressão que o Guto Vitor está passando. E o Derek falou, cara, a pressão é diferente para cada um, entendeu? Para mim, eu sofri pressão, mas eu tentei aprender com os melhores atletas, com os melhores coaches. E ele falou, olha, essa seria a minha recomendação. Com relação ao físico do Guto Vitor, é evidente, o físico dele é fenomenal e ele parece que ser um cara que treina muito bem, né? Então, ele é um cara que provavelmente os dois estarão no palco algum dia. O Ugrinov, eu tenho uma pergunta para o Guto Vitor. Ugrinov, tá me ouvindo?
Sim, estou ouvindo.
Qual que é o sonho do Guto Vitor? Qual que é o sonho dele? O sonho do Derek Lunsford era pisar no palco do Olympia. O sonho de qualquer fisiculturista é pisar no palco do Mr. Olympia. Qual que é o sonho do Guto Vitor? Ele se vê sendo um dia o Mr. Olympia?
Виталий, какая твоя мечта в спорте? Видишь ли ты себя, мечтаешь ли ты однажды стать мистером Олимпия?
Я не думал о том, чтобы стать мистер Олимпия, но я мечтаю стать одним из самых известных спортсменов в мире. И если меня этот путь приведет к Олимпии, то я буду там участвовать.
Ele Claro que ele tem sonho de ser dos melhores atletas do mundo, pisar no palco do Mr. Olímpia. Ele ainda não se permite de sonhar de ser Mr. Olímpia, mas ele vai fazer toda a coisa para alcançar esse nível.
Perfeito, perfeito, perfeito. Tamer, sua próxima pergunta.
So, honey, I like to, I know you gotta be diplomatic, but come on, we're not live here. You gotta have some spice to what we're talking about here. So, you work with a lot of different athletes, a lot of Mr. Olympia athletes. Phil Heath, Jay, Nicole, and go on the list. So, what is the most difficult year that you had with any athlete that you work, and why?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I think he's in the cab or something.
Okay, can you mute? I think.
There you go.
There you go. So, honey, what I was asking you is, you work with a lot of different Mr. Olympias, Derek. You work now with Phil, Jay, Nicole Wilkins. The list goes on. What was the hardest and most difficult year that you had preparing any of the Olympians and other athletes that you remember? So, eu perguntei para o Rony que ele trabalhou com muito Mr. Olympia, o Phil Heath, o Jay Cutler, o Derek, a Nicole Wilkins, e a lista vai. E qual que é um dos anos mais difíceis que ele teve e por que preparando desses Olímpias? Go ahead, Rony.
The one that comes to mind the most is probably Jay Cutler in 2009, because nobody had ever lost the Mr. Olympia and won again. And to this day, nobody has lost the Mr. Olympia and won again. So that was probably the most pressure, and that was the most difficult because he's such an icon, and he was so many eyeballs that were looking at whether or not he was going to end up being anywhere close to his best. And I think that was probably the most amount of pressure I've ever felt because, again, it hadn't been done before.
A resposta do Ronnie Rambod foi quando ele trabalhou com o Jay Cutler em 2009. O Jay Cutler tinha perdido o título dele em 2008 para o Dexter Jackson. E aí ele e o Jay Cutler começaram um relacionamento empresarial onde ele tinha que ajudar o Jay Cutler a reconquistar o título. Nenhum Mr. Olympia já teria reconquistado o título. E ele falou, esse foi o ano que tinha mais pressão. Now, honey, at the same time, I believe that in 2009, you cemented yourself as the greatest coach. Before 2009, we could argue that maybe Chad Nichols, Chris Aceto, and some of the great other coaches, George Farah, some great coaches. But it was in 2009 that you possibly cemented your name as the greatest coach, even though the pressure was great, but the reward was also great. Would you agree with that?
Well, let me translate that before.
Go
honey,
ahead,
let me just translate that to the Brazilian fans. So, o que o Tarek falou agora foi que antes de 2009, o Rony, lógico, era considerado um dos melhores treinadores do mundo, mas você podia argumentar que o Chad Nicholas, o George Farah, Dennis James, tem outros nomes famosos na indústria que realmente você podia argumentar para qualquer lado, mas realmente 2009 realmente separou ele dos outros treinadores com a habilidade dele de fazer um cara que era Mr. Olympia ficar Mr. Olympia novamente, o que nunca aconteceu na história do esporte. Rony.
What was your question?
Yeah, if you believe that 2009, even though the pressure was huge, if you believe that was the moment that you became arguably the greatest coach in bodybuilding.
I don't look at it that way, only because every show to me is more important than the last one. So for 2009, I felt very, very proud even to this day, obviously, to when I see the pictures of the foot stomp and seeing the physique that we were able to put up on stage. And a lot of people had basically not really looked at Jay as a threat anymore in 2009. They were saying he's too boxy, he doesn't come in condition, his upper body and his lower body don't match up. There was so much different, critical reviews about his physique, and then obviously he just came off of a loss. It was very, very difficult. So I was very, very proud of the moment, and every time I see photos from that show, it's a very epic moment. But to be honest with you, 2010, we had Jay and Phil. I trained both of them, and they went 1 and 2. So that was a very proud moment for me as well. So 2011, 1-2 backwards, where Phil went on to win 7 straight after that in very dominant fashion. So I look at all of these different comparisons, and it was very, very just, surreal to be able to be a part of their journey with these amazing athletes.
Well, o Ronnie Rambod falou que, logicamente, 2009 teve a pressão, mas foi um momento muito importante na carreira dele. Mas, ao mesmo tempo, ele falou que cada show é um show para ele. Ele não se focaliza no passado. Se ele tem um atleta competindo no futuro, se o Derek está competindo no futuro, aquele atleta é o mais importante. E ele mencionou que em 2010 ele teve o Jay Cutler e o Phil Heath, e os dois conseguiram pegar primeiro e segundo lugar. Então, aquele ano também foi muito gratificante para o Ronnie Rambod. Derek Lunsford.
Derek, let me, I like doing challenges. I know you like to do controversial questions. I like challenges. So I had a workout that I did was Rafael Brandão, that I did legs. It was an incredible workout that we did in the United States. I showed that the razor is still alive. You got to watch that, honey. You probably will call me in fairness and say, what the hell are you doing? Like lifting with those guys. But I could show them that razor is not dead yet. So, hey, why can't we get like a workout of the Mr. Olympia 212, Derek, Rafael Brandão, Vito, and both coaches, you guys, we like doing a training here in Brazil. Why can we not make that happen? Derek.
Hey, man. Go ahead. That was for Derek?
Derek, you want to translate that?
Oh, Tarek.
O Tamer perguntou quando que ele falou que ele ainda está treinando pernas. Ele acabou de fazer um treinamento intensivo com o Rafael Brandão e ele gostaria de saber quando que o Ronnie, Derek Lunsford, Guto Vito, o Grinov pode ficar juntos e fazer um treinamento junto. Ronnie.
Yeah, I think that anything is possible, and I'd love to be able to get back together and be able to train. So especially to do it back in Brazil would be amazing, because I have nothing but fond memories in Brazil. So I want to be able to definitely get together and be able to do that.
O Ronnie falou que definitivamente ele gostaria de fazer isso no Brasil, um treinamento com todos esses grandes atletas. Derek.
Vito, ask Vito if he's ready for that, Derek.
Guto Vito, do you want to have a workout with Derek Lunsford, Ronnie Rambod, Tamer Elguindi?
Что он сказал? Sorry, man.
It's okay.
It's
okay. Let me ask another question. Guto Vito, who is your favorite bodybuilder?
Кто мой любимый бодибилдер? Jay Cutler is Phil Heath.
Jay Cutler and Phil Heath?
In Phil Heath, yes.
Derek, who's your favorite bodybuilder of all times?
Yeah, definitely Jay Cutler and Phil as well. But I'm going to throw in Flex Lewis. Like I said, he was a big inspiration and motivation for me too as well. Not just, coming up into the NPC and IFBB Pro League, but also as a fellow competitor. So as a 212er, I would say Flex Lewis and Jay Cutler, of course, and Phil Heath.
Honey, in your opinion, who's the greatest bodybuilder of all times? Let's make you lose some followers. Let's make you lose some followers on Instagram right now.
Hey, make this even harder. Make this even harder, Ron. Who is the top 5 bodybuilders of all time in order? In order, honey. Don't
I can't
be a
even do
man. Be a man. Come on, you can. Call fairness now because we need a man here to respond that. You gotta put yourself. Just say something. Stop this fucking bullshit. You're not gonna come here to a live with Derek and I, and you're gonna like be diplomatic the whole time.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I was blessed enough to, I think, work with, and here, I'll give it to you in no particular order, because right now, I would have to really, really dissect it. And I never have, because I don't look at it that way. But I think that, obviously Ronnie Coleman winning 8 Mr. Olympias is staggering. I think Phil Heath winning 7 Olympias, Jay Cutler winning 4 Olympias. And the only reason why Jay Cutler only won 4 was because Ronnie Coleman won 8. So again, if Ronnie Coleman was not around, how many Mr. Olympias would Jay Cutler win?
Well, I think Jay Cutler has 10 second places. He's got the most second places, not only to Ronnie Coleman, but he was second place to Dexter. He was second place to Phil Heath. If I'm not mistaken, he's had 10 second places, which is quite impressive as well.
Yeah, and honestly, at the end of the day, if you look at the lineup that he went through, I mean, Phil Heath went against Kai Green, Dennis Wolf, Big Ramy. He went up against us, but look at Jay Cutler went up against Ronnie, went up against Kevin, went up to, look at all the people that they went up against legends. So, it's just, these guys are just epically, they were amazing. And I grew up, honestly, as a Dorian Yates fan, because when I was competing back in the day, Dorian Yates was, the best in the world, and the very dominant best in the world.
My question to you is, you have money?
Wait, Ted. Let me just translate that, because otherwise is like too much connect. Just very quick. So, a gente está perguntando, logicamente, quem que o Rony acha que são os melhores fisiculturistas da história do nosso esporte. E ele mencionou o Ronnie Coleman, lógico, com 8 vitórias, ou mencionou o Phil Heath, e ele também mencionou o Jay. Ele está sendo um pouco bias, lógico, ele está se comprando um pouco, porque são todos atletas que ele treinou. Mas o que ele falou que eu achei extremamente interessante, eu acho que o Tarek também concorda com isso, que o Phil Heath, como o Tarek mencionou, o Jay Cutler ganhou segundo lugar 10 vezes. Que se não fosse pelo Ronnie Coleman, quantos Mr. Olympias o Jay teria ganho? Entendeu? Então, eu acho que as pessoas não calculam correto as vitórias do Ronnie, porque certamente, se você não tivesse um dos maiores de todos os tempos, o Ronnie, na equação, ele teria ganhado muito, muito, muito mais do que 4.
Okay. But my intention here is for him to lose followers, Tamer. So, Honey, you mentioned Ronnie Coleman, Phil Heath, and Jay Cutler. We're missing 2 more athletes. I just want to make sure I remind everybody who you're going to leave out.
Yeah, well, I think, honestly, like I said, I grew up a big fan of Dorian Yates. I think Dorian's personality and whatnot fits my style of just making sure that you get the job done and not having to go out there and show big, but just, show up and be the best you absolutely can be without having to be loud. And I really, really admired him, still do. I think Dorian was just really a epic bodybuilder. And honestly, when you look at the Mr. Olympias, I really feel that you can't turn around and obviously leave Arnold Schwarzenegger out, because Arnold was also not just had an amazing physique, but he also there was an aura about him. It was so good that he went from the best bodybuilder in the world to the highest paid actor in the world. So, and then becoming the governor of California. So you got to, you can't forget about him as well.
Well, I got to be honest. I'm just shocked that you didn't mention Sean Ray. And I can hear Sean Ray right now just going live and criticizing you publicly that you didn't mention his name.
Well, you said greatest bodybuilder, Mr. Olympia, or did you say the greatest bodybuilder?
Greatest bodybuilders of all times. And I know Sean Ray right now is after you.
No, Sean.
Não, o Terk tá brincando, falando que porque o Sean Ray e o Ronnie, lógico que tem algumas controvérsias dos dois, que ele deixou o nome do Sean Ray fora dessa lista, como um dos melhores. Mas, hey, Ronnie, like, it's all about you losing followers. So, I mean, did you just left Lee Haney out of the top 5?
You know, honestly, I think Lee Haney was an amazing athlete, but because he was so far a little bit more removed during that time for me, it was one of those things where I thought that Lee Haney was obviously very dominant, but I think Lee Haney also, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I think he finished his career around, 31 years old, I believe, 31, 32, I believe.
His last Mr. Olympia, he was 29 years old.
That was his last Mr. Olympia? I don't think so.
Is that the age that he was?
Yes.
I thought he was on his 30s.
We did a live with him, and he was 29 years old, and he retired. And the only bodybuilder that threatened his reign, that he was scared, he admitted here, was Mohammed bin Aziza. He said, I was never scared of Dorian. He was just another second place that came. I said, the guy that my coach and I were really paying attention was Mohammed bin Aziza.
Yeah, he wasn't alive with us, but I don't remember that.
Yeah, so again, he ended at 29, and I don't know why he ended so early and so young to be finished in his 20s. So, but at the end of the day, he was a phenomenal bodybuilder too, and obviously winning 8 Mr. Olympias is it's amazing. But I think that when you look at only reason why I say some of the other bodybuilders is because of how good those other bodybuilders were in the top 3, top 5. When you look at some of the ones that were the Kevin Lavronis, the Sean Rays, all of those guys that were in the top 3, top 4, Flex Wheeler, all of these guys, these legends that were in the top 4, 5 at the Olympias. That's where, again, it was a little bit more of my era as well.
O Rony acabou de falar agora que a gente brincou com ele, né? Que ele deixou o Lee Haney fora dessa lista dos 5 melhores, e ele está explicando porque ele acha que ele terminou a carreira um pouco mais jovem, talvez ele não desenvolveu o físico dele completamente. Mas deixa eu fazer uma pergunta pro treinador do Vitor. Quem que, na opinião dele, tem grandes bodybuilders russos? Eu lembro na minha cabeça o Fedorov, um dos maiores realmente russos, e muitos competidores fenomenais que vieram da Rússia. Quem, na sua opinião, é o maior bodybuilder da história da Rússia ou da Ucrânia, ou daquela parte do mundo do East europeu? Quem que é o melhor bodybuilder daquela parte do mundo? Vamos tirar assim, não vamos falar só a Rússia, vamos falar tirando a parte, como que você fala? Eastern Europe, Eastern Europe e Rússia, para a gente incluir uma parte maior. Quem que, na opinião de você, é o melhor bodybuilder daquela região do mundo?
Na minha opinião, sim, teve muitos já atletas grandes, mas ninguém ainda conseguiu realizar o potencial, como fulfill the potential, realizar o potencial até o fim. Agora, infelizmente, que vai demorar um pouco por causa dos eventos agora, eu gosto muito um atleta que é da categoria 212, que foi o meu atleta por muito tempo, Oleg Kriv, ele é da Ucrânia, ele foi no top 6 da Mr. Olympia já, e eu acho que ele tem muito potencial.
Oleg Kriv, he won his pro card at the Musclecontest Ireland, and he won his qualification at the Musclecontest Nacional. He's from Ukraine. His best friend is the historical arm wrestler Pushkar.
Sim. Acho que ele tem ainda muito potencial.
Oleg Kriv, ele estava mencionando um atleta que ele acredita que é um atleta que tem um potencial muito grande, e esse atleta, coincidentemente, já competiu no Brasil. Ele conquistou o Procard dele no Musclecontest na Irlanda, e ele já pegou o top 6 no Mr. Olympia. Inclusive, ele pode ser até um adversário muito bom contra o Derek Lunsford. Vamos ver se eu acho uma foto aqui dele. e a gente coloca no vídeo aqui. Você treinou ele?
Sim, eu fui o primeiro treinador dele. Ele ganhou muita coisa comigo no país dele, no campeonato europeu, overall ele ganhou na primeira ano do campeonato. Sim, a gente treinou juntos por muito tempo.
E desculpa, só uma pergunta. Você sabe qual? Ele já se qualificou para o Mr. Olímpia? Você sabe qual seria a próxima competição dele?
Infelizmente, agora, por causa dos eventos que nós todos sabemos, não dá para saber. Infelizmente, não dá para até, você sabe, pensar quando ele vai voltar a competir. Infelizmente,
sim.
Infelizmente não sabemos.
Deixa eu mostrar uma foto dele aqui, ó. Ele já pegou top 6 no Mr. Olympia na 212. Ele é ucraniano. Ele ganhou o Procard dele no Musclecontest Ireland. 2 semanas depois ele foi para o Brasil e ganhou a sua qualificação. E ele é um atleta fenomenal. Esse atleta, Ole Kriv, ele é da Ucrânia. Ele é da Ucrânia. Inclusive, acredito que ele está na Ucrânia agora. E ele está numa situação controversial. Acho que ele está dentro da guerra, mas ele também era o melhor amigo do lutador de braço de ferro, um dos melhores do mundo, chamava Pushkar, e o Pushkar morreu 3 meses antes dele conquistar a qualificação dele para o Olímpia.
Hey, did Derek compete against him, Derek?
Yeah.
You compete against him on one of the, I think you got top 6, correct? So just so you and Hani know what we're talking about who he think is like the top athlete from Eastern Europe that's coming up right now. And he said he used to train this guy. He's no longer training this guy, but he believes this is the guy that, currently is the best guy on Eastern Europe, just so you guys know. So, but you compete against him. I think you got 6 on the Olympia. Is that correct, Eric?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So very grainy physique.
Yeah. So yeah. So, but which year he competed? The last year, or he competed? Because I don't remember, Tarek, like seeing him. He competed which year? The year that the. I'm trying to remember.
He competed in Ireland, won his pro card in Ireland. No, went to Brazil.
No. I'm talking about the Olympia. Like when
this year he placed. I think it was this year that he placed top 6.
No. This year he was injured. He missed this last year's Olympia. It was 2020.
2020.
Yeah.
Oh, good competitor. Very good competitor.
Ok. Eu espero ver o Vitor, vamos acabar um pouco com a live, eu espero ver o Vitor no Brasil, eu estou fazendo um convite novamente ao Vitor competir no Brasil, acho que ele tem muitos fãs brasileiros, os fãs brasileiros são os fãs que realmente, até comparado com os fãs americanos, que mais amam e têm uma paixão incrível pelo esporte. Eu estou fazendo um convite pessoal para ele tentar ganhar o cartão profissional dele aqui no Brasil. Eu tenho certeza que será uma experiência incrível para ele. Ele vai amar os fãs brasileiros. A gente tem em setembro o Olímpia. Se não for no Olímpia, a gente tem o Nacional, que vai ser em novembro, né, Tari?
Correct.
Em novembro. Então, são 2 oportunidades de ele ganhar o cartão profissional dele aqui no Brasil. I, like to close the live also re-inviting Hani, Rambod, and Derek to come to Brazil. I believe, it's hard because I'm a little biased as Brazilian, but Brazilian fans are so passionate. You have a lot of fans here in Brazil, Derek, a lot of guys that, really will be kind of absolutely nuts to see you here. It'll be amazing if me, you, Hani, we kind of did some, seminar here, did some stuff together. Let's make that happen.
That would be
Tamer está convidando Derek Lunsford e Honey Rambod para ir no Brasil, fazer um treinamento no Brasil. Ele acha que tem muitos eventos no Brasil, ele gostaria de ter todos. I just want to finish the live asking Ugrinov, is Gutevito coming to the NPC and the IFBB Pro League? Can you ask him that question?
Виталь, ты переходишь в NPC и по лигу ИФББ?
Скажите ему, что я перехожу в NPC и готов навести там хорошего шороху.
Sim, ele está pronto, ele quer competir na NPC, ele quer entrar na Liga dos Profissionais IFBB, claro.
Have a live here, and it's confirmed. So we will see you guys later. I will see you guys in the next show. Thank you so much.
What the hell is happening here?
Tamer and
Something is happening with the sound.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I will see you guys in the next show. Derek, thank you so much. Hani, thank you so much. Tamer and Ugrinov.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.